access channel. But both sides have assured me that it will be coming. So when it does come, what do we want to go on that channel? What should be the vetting process? Are we going to use it mainly for marketing? Are we going to use it for information? Is it going to be student-created documents on there? Is it going to be school district employee-created? Do you want videos? Do you want PowerPoints? What do you want? This will be really kind of the look of our district. What do you want it to look like?
Yes, all of that.
One each week, yeah.
Sorry. That sounded good.
So you'd like it a mix between student created and adult created, and some video, some PowerPoint?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look for opportunities. If there's a class that lends itself to students doing this, that's a real application.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly think we should be disseminating information in real time, however that is. It takes time to do a video, or it takes time to make a PowerPoint, so the logistics of who's available and willing to do that that's a whole bunch of questions there, but in my mind.
We could do story time with the superintendent for next year's snow days.
That would be good. I mean, just, the face of, the district, somebody speaking on behalf of the district, what's new in the district, report from the schools, including all three of our, sites. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it could be a lot of information that's just available.
I think we can promote events too. If there's
Yeah.
a big game, could we show the games when they're here? I don't know
whether we
what
can
all the
show
rules are. with that.
what all goes into that. but-
If we wanted to do any type of live that takes different equipment, Rushford does have that, but they had to pay extra for that, and then there's some extra equipment in the office that needs to be turned on for that to happen, and we're just we're not there yet, and I don't know. That's one of those conversations down the road. Do we want to do the wiring? Do we want to do the hardware to get there?
Is that something that you and the principals of the two schools can just meet and then come up with ideas of what to do, and then we just view what your suggestions were?
We meet with representatives from Ascentech as well to figure out what
Their capabilities are too.
right, and what needs to be hardwired, what equipment needs to be purchased,
Right.
because it takes it takes that purchase and wiring.
I would say whatever we put, I know it's a local cable channel, but it should be high quality, because there's nothing more discouraging than seeing something that is poor resolution, hard to read, doesn't change, I mean, so that is, if we're gonna put it out there, let's put it out there with pride and make it good. My opinion.
Is this something that the District Technology Advisory Committee should deal with, or?
Well, we've got members of that District Tech Advisory Committee here.
I don't know if it's really tech. I almost think it's more the marketing.
Yeah,
It's
group.
more the
Say
marketing
marketing.
piece than the.
Okay. I would like to
Well, we
see
needed
it.
a goal for marketing, right?
Yeah.
In our strategic plan, we didn't get that one done yet, right?
Yeah, right.
That's a good one.
But we also have to find out how many of our people within the district have a Centec video. Because if you have Dish or MediaCom, this will not.
Get there.
This is a PEG channel just on the Centec
Right.
video. And PEG stands for Public Educational and Government Access Channel. So it's supposed to be free to us.
Would be nice to have some kind of student involvement.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the cable access channel?
So hopefully by the 21st, I can tell you what's up and running.
Okay. Update from District Technology Advisory Committee.
That was this morning at 7. Mimi attended. Do you wanna?
Yeah, we talked about the e-learning days and surveys and we talked about taking Chromebooks home. And, one of the things, which I just said in the finance committee, I've had lots of meetings today, was that, Dependable Solutions told us that, in another district, they've put on $40 cases onto the Chromebooks and it's really protected them, so they haven't really had much damage. So we would wanna do the $40 cases on the Chromebooks and then kids could take them home, but we wanna make sure that parents and kids understand what that means and see if they're interested. So I'm not sure what Lisa's creating as far as a survey. We didn't get into all the details on it, but there would be a fee, some sort of insurance policy, and we talked a bit about how some of the other districts have their own self-funded policy. So $35 per, that's what one district does. And so anybody who would want to take the Chromebooks home would pay $35 and that would be their insurance policy. And then we would just pay for the repairs as they came in. And according to them, with these cases, they've some minimal repairs. So it sounded like a really good option. I guess we just need to get more information from the surveys and see if parents are interested. And we were only looking at we're looking at grades 7 through 12 for the potential implementation of it. Did I miss anything, Lisa?
Well, and it's just with the E-days, we'd have to see what is available and educationally sound for K through 6. Because some do like a MCA prep day, and so they can go in and access MCA prep material. However, that's just grades 3 through 6 because there are no MCAs for kindergarten through grade 2. And what some of the districts are doing for K through 6 are just worksheets, and then they have a week to get the packet of worksheets done. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, I would just want to make sure that if we're counting a day as a school day, a learning day, it needs to be an educationally structured as far as part of the curriculum. It can't be just a random day. It should be following along where they are in the curriculum. It should expand and continue the learning that's going on in the classroom. And just having worksheets doesn't do that. So, and that is the reason that one neighboring school doesn't have e-learning days, because they're trying to figure out how to do that with the students.
It would be possible to do a flipped type lesson though, and the worksheet is your ticket in when school convenes, and so that's an opportunity to do a flipped type lesson and have them preview the material, and then you're really working with them on understanding it, right? I mean, so
Right.
that's a different use of worksheet or a different,
Right.
so, I mean, I think there are some possibilities to discuss there for the different grades,
Right.
in my opinion.
We need to just start
Right.
digging in, and today we just looked at what other people have created, because there's no sense in reinventing the wheel, but we can take the wheel and make it our own and better.
That's right. Turn it into a gyroscope.
There's a lot of work to do, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg, honestly, and trying to figure stuff out. But there's a lot of work and a lot of decisions to be made to implement it. So
It feels to me though that like e-learning days, I thought e-learning days required that they have this, I mean, you have to have phone access to the teacher, which is a concern, has to be worked through. And then, do they have to have the internet? or do we have to have a structured lesson? So I mean, I'm gonna meet with Lisa tomorrow, cause I wasn't able to come this morning to understand that, but I've been trying to read through some of the materials that are available.
And the state has said that if the students have, with the internet, if, like a Google Hangout counts in place of a phone, because they can call into the Google Hangout, or they can log in
So,
and have a live conversation. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a phone, but we do have to have that access to have the voice.
But I
But
kinda-
if they don't have internet, then that's part of the surveying that has to get done.
I thought the e-learning days were prerequisite was having a one-to-one and take-home devices, and I don't think that's necessary. It's necessary for them to have internet and for you to have a phone connection. So part of the bigger decisions we have to make is because we're getting into this in a situation where we have the potential to send devices home, which why wouldn't we if we could, but that's complicating the home or adding the complexity.
March 11th, so Monday, I signed up for a webinar. They're doing a webinar on different considerations for implementing, because there are, I think every superintendent in the state that doesn't have e-learning days wants to know how to put them in after this year. So I will be sitting in on a webinar on the 11th to get hopefully all of those types of questions answered, as far as what is acceptable in the state plan, what is not acceptable, how much leeway is there, how much do we have to absolutely have. So hopefully I will have more answers after that, and we will just keep slowly stepping through this to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
And if we are going to e-learning days, it has to be implemented before the start of the school year next year.
Before September 1, we need to inform the parents.
Yeah.
Mhm. So the parents would all have to be, except this year they did waive that, because I know Byron didn't have their e-learning plan in, and they put their plan in, I think, the middle of February, and the state did approve that. Because, and it's a good thing they did, because they've had to close buildings due to snow on the roof, so. This has just been,
So maybe there's a workaround.
yeah.
I mean, maybe it doesn't, maybe there's a possibility, even if it isn't done by September or August.
Mhm. I think we can get it done before September 1.
Thanks for going to the meeting. Sorry I wasn't able to be there.
Jean was there too.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Moving along, possible reduction of programs.
Okay, we talked about this in finance. And once again, it's a numbers game. This should now, I was informed right after school, we currently have 4 boys, so we do have a boys team. However, the board last year did ask to revisit this one before golf started. So we do have 4 boys signed up for golf, 2 more potentially could be signing up. It takes 4 to have a team. We have 9 girls for golf. 11. Hoi, thank you. So, and remember last year, the girls were down to 3. So, we brought this up at finance, and then we said that the board did want to still have, there was talk last year that the board would have a discussion as far as, do we need to have, you know, instead of having 2 coaches, if there's fewer than 15, because I know there's the 15 gets the assistant coach, do we? So it's just a discussion factor right now.
For this year. You have 4, you said you have 4 boys now.
So we
Potential
do
6.
have it, with a potential of 6, so we
Right,
definitely
that
have a
takes-
boys team.
That took 6 for a team.
Nope, 4.
Oh,
4 is a team.
okay.
And I remember we talked about it last year, but I don't remember all the details. So, I'm sorry. I just remember that we wanted to talk about it as a board. So, I don't know what we need to, I think, do we ask to talk about it every year, or was it just because of the year prior? I don't remember.
Because the year prior, you wanted to make sure you talked about it before the season to see if the numbers were there to warrant 2 coaches. And so, but we never really talked about, is having a team warrant? And there are times where the boys' team is one place and the girls' team is another place, and Lisa's here and can maybe speak to any questions you might have. And our boys' coach is also here.
So with the girls, if there were just 3 last year and now we have this large number that's expressed interest or signed up, just wondering subjectively, how likely are they all to stay?
Well, 8 of them are already paid, which is usually what we include as
Okay.
that they're
committed.
staying.
Okay,
So 8 have paid.
okay,
And the increase in the golf, there are 6 7th and 8th graders. So that, and we have 5 upperclassmen, 9 through 12.
okay.
So, I have the projections if you want for all the sports, if you would like paperwork on all that, is that? And then we kind of go by when they paid, and I would have had this in the packet, but I wanted to bring it down to the last minute possible. And there's another baseball player that was already paid, so it's already old data, but,
Make sure everyone gets one for the newspaper packet.
so as you can see, the girls golf, there was 5 athletes that are 9 through 12, and 6 athletes 7 through 8, and so of that total, 8 of them were paid. So, and you know, it looks like baseball has 28 signed up, but only 11 paid. Believe me, by Monday at 3:30 it'll be chaos, and there'll probably only be like 2 that haven't paid. So it's the nature of the beast, regardless of how hard we try to get them to pay early. So, and boys golf, Kyle's been working hard, and we have a big numbers out for baseball in the 7th and 8th grade, which has affected a little bit of the younger golf. So 2 of the golf is already paid, and the other 2 have, and he's talked to another 2, so we might have 4 more that come up. You know, they don't start for a whole nother week, so we have another week to get more in, and this is just discussion tonight.
What happens if, like, being devil's advocate here, they, like the golf, 3 pay, and then that's all that pay, what happens then?
Well, that would be a board decision.
Right, well, that's what I suspected, but
You know,
yeah.
they can still individually golf,
yeah,
so they wouldn't be out of the opportunity, if that's what we're looking at,
mhm.
so,
But otherwise, there can be a team and they can participate independently, can't they?
correct,
Yeah.
which we have done.
Right.
And just in reflection of what, last spring, we didn't approve any of the spring coaches in the August like we would have, just because we wanted to present numbers of the spring sign-up. And the sign-up day, we had every sport represented, and they were all at the same time, so you couldn't have kids that were really going up for track, go to the baseball one, so they could just keep going to meetings, which sometimes happens, just so they can get out of the classroom, so, or out of their channel one time. So we were very deliberate on making sure everybody had a place to go and they had to commit, or not have to. And some have still switched, and I expect some more. I mean, it's the best we can do at this point, because they switched last minute or even a couple days after, but.
And the other thing with baseball, we approved the varsity and the B team, and 28 is over the 15. For softball, that gives us space to have an assistant or a B team coach. And for track and field, there might be that need to have someone else hired there too. but thank you for putting
They
this all
go with
together.
Rushford.
They do, but when we reach a certain point,
Duke Supply, yeah, no,
Yeah.
but I mean, they.
yeah, we pair with them, yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like the numbers for that are about 88, combining the two schools.
Okay,
And, the head coach that we're supplying from Houston, she has Alexa was hired. And then the head coach that Rushford hired is, Dale Moga.
the coach that, what?
Rushford Peterson hired their head track coach, Dale Moga.
Oh,
He resigned ours here, he gets more.
That was more, he was looking for, a chance to, they couldn't find one, so he stepped back up. So it wasn't like, ooh, I'm gonna go over there. It was,
Cause actually,
he was hoping to have a break, but he
Yeah.
is taking it with great strides, so.
yes,
Is that
he's
nice?
really, yeah. He was hoping someone else would step up, but he didn't wanna see the program dwindle.
Wow. Okay,
thank you, this is good information.
yeah.
I don't know, maybe in May.
I appreciate this kind of information. I
Sure.
mean, I know it's always
least I know.
available, but,
Mhm.
so it's, thank you, thanks.
So assume, what if only 3 boys sign up? Do
Well,
we-
there are 4 that signed up, so, but you're saying we have only 3 pay.
2 have paid.
2 have paid,
They have until Monday
okay.
at 3:30. And if you watch the district office, Monday at 3:18,
Okay,
But he does have a valid point though. What if we approve it and then there's only 3 that sign up?
That's what happens.
So then we
Well,
just
we're
have
on a
coach for it.
discussion item here,
Right,
right? I'm
right.
confused, what, we're not acting to do anything, we're discussing possible program
Right.
reductions.
Okay, so if we don't do anything, things just stay the same with 2 coaches. We'd have to act to make a change.
we haven't, yes, we haven't. It takes a board decision it takes a board decision to hire the coaches, and that, they're not on this hiring memo.
So we start on Monday, the 18th with no coaches.
And no grass.
Because we don't have another meeting between,
Right. And so,
I mean, and it's a discussion item, we could act to make a reduction and add to it in the next meeting, but it's on here as not an action, it's on
Right.
for discussion, so you're right, we're caught in this.
Yep.
They need to know by the 18th.
yeah,
well, I would think they
Yeah.
need to know sooner even,
Well,
right?
yeah, for sure. This is very difficult for a coach.
it's just when I found out today that, it was 4, it just made it kind of a sigh of relief.
Well, I think it's at a point where the board has to decide, is it of value to continue it in lieu of the fact that what if we have only 3? The drawback of that is then each year you're, yes, we do, no, we don't, yes, we do, no, we don't. And that sends a bad message to the kids too.
Yep.
So, 3 is not many, but 3 is 3, you know?
And we do have a large class of 7th graders coming over next year, and we
Right.
might be, there might be 6 golfers in that, 6 boy golfers in the, cause there's, how many?
A lot of kids.
There's a,
But look what happened to the girls'
52.
golf.
right,
I mean, the girls' golf, you didn't have hardly any, and then all of a sudden, you know, it climbed up. So I think that's difficult to do to the kids and the coach, is
Yes.
jump back and forth each year.
So at this point, we're gonna have a team and we don't have to worry about it.
that's what I'd like to think,
But do we have a coach?
yeah,
Okay,
And they'll be on the next board
Yep.
agenda.
that will
Okay.
be on the next board agenda.
Okay,
Okay. Other possible reduction of program? We also, it's still back, okay. And this is a discussion, HVAD is starting, they have moved their alternative learning program from the Wabasha Kellogg, or the Kellogg building that they own, and they're renting space at Southeast Tech. And, about half of our enrollment at Summit is coming from La Crescent. And with HVED's alternative school going to Winona and them expanding it to 7th and 8th graders, La Crescent is thinking that they send one bus here, and they would send one bus for transportation for an ALC if they can take 7th and 8th graders to Winona. That's where they would send their transportation. And so, if we're losing half of our numbers in Summit Learning Center, that means that we would probably have to cut the staff.
Because we wouldn't have 7th and 8th grade here.
We don't, we have 2 rooms, we would probably be able to go down to 1, but, it's just not, I don't think it's wise to have 7th and 8th graders in the same room with the 9th and 12th graders. Todd agrees. In fact, that's what Todd has been saying from the get-go. If we're going to have a 7th and 8th grade program, it would need to be in a totally different spot than where the high school is.
Having taught in that environment, that would not be good.
Right. It's just, and Summit is a very good program. It definitely fills a need for the students who need it. But I don't think it would be a good fit for 7th and 8th graders.
What's the timeline on making that reduction again?
That's why we're talking about it here, so it would be, we would be reducing it at the 2nd meeting in March, so it's done before April 1.
Okay.
And the amount of teachers involved with that?
Currently, we have 2 full-time teachers at Summit and 1 part-time para. The suggestion is to go to 1 full-time teacher and then a full-time para. Some of the para time can be billed back for the students on IEPs, because she would be listed, or he could be listed, depending on who the para is.
And
As a program.
what are the numbers down there now?
Depends on who's showing up. Last year, it was 15.2 at the end of the year, but we had 21 kids on the roster. But because of attendance, MDE coded it as 15.2. With an alternative school, that's one of those programs that you've been maybe hearing about in the news as far as having to adhere to minimum hours. You count hours of attendance for the students in that program. And so even though we have 21 kids on the book, last year MDE for attendance counted us at 15.2.
How would we be able to, with 1 teacher, cover the entire subject area?
We could do waivers and the experimental program. The tiered licensure program still has the experimental waiver.
But isn't that for 1 year at a time?
That's basically their license for an alternative school.
Okay.
So, these are all good questions. But it's kind of painful that when we would still possibly get, and we get a couple of students from Caledonia, we get a couple of students from Rushford. HVED has also opened up satellite alternative schools where you can have students that stay in your own district and then they log on and do just online Odysseyware. But most of the time when you've got a student that needs an alternative school, it's because that type of learning didn't work. I think there's about 3 kids in all of HVED that are enrolled. That they're hiring a half-time teacher in Spring Grove and 2.25s in Lanesboro.
But it should be mentioned, right, the positive is that the program gets to continue on, and,
Oh, for Summit, right.
you know, there's,
We get to,
that's the positive can come from it.
and it really is, we're going to, as I said, finance meeting, if we're going to really live our mission statement, we need to have Summit, because for some of those kids, it is the way that they can reach their potential and find success, because they do need that. Well, you taught at Summit. You
I
know-
will tell you that there's a student now that I deal with on a regular basis that runs a business actually very successfully. And I'll point out, I'm impressed, you know? He's doing a great job. His business is expanding bigger and bigger every year. And, I'm impressed by where he took himself after he left the Summit.
So it's also why we have the online. One size doesn't fit all, so we need to make sure we've got the variety there.
This is sort of an out there statement, but is there any discussion with the tiered licensure, an MD looking at alternate ways to license the teacher licensure issue that is such a hurdle, to look at other options for support, so the kids could be in the school, but you have ways to cover it without having the alternative school that has alternative licensure and attendance hours, and other ways of providing support. And to put some of these kids in an online, going to HVED Odysseyware, as you stated, is probably not better than having a presence.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, we don't have enough kids to have a presence, so how do we have more flexibility in the teachers who are willing and able of providing support, but they can't because of a license? So I don't know if those discussions are happening at the state, because I'm sure it's a challenge in other districts than just ours.
Legislatively, there is a bill to absolutely change the tiered system to make it much more difficult to get a license. So there is conversation, but it's talking about going the other way.
Okay.
And so we have to get the tiered system just working the way it is. Just let us try to work the way it
We'll
is.
give it a chance anyway.
Yeah.
That's what a couple of the legislators said. Give it a couple of years, just let it work for the tiered system, because they're trying to revamp it and say, well, you can't bring these people on that have the experience, and it would hurt your continuing ed type of or business relationship within it, the way they wanted to revamp it back.
So we'll see what May 20th holds as far as what bubbles out of legislative package.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other thing, at Houston Elementary School, we know that the large class is coming over. We have 14.5 classroom teachers, and next year we'll only need 14. So we talked about that at finance, as far as there will be a reduction of a 0.5 teacher, but we probably will need that 0.5 teacher to handle some things here in the high school, because of there are some constraints like with industrial technology. I don't think we want 27 seventh graders with power drills at one time. So so we're looking at ways to make sure that the situation for them is educational and safe.
Wouldn't it eliminate over there a half-time teacher, and then they had a half-time teacher over here because of licensure, so.
Well, and we're looking at licensure, we're looking at with the Rubik's Cube, if we've got somebody that's licensed through grade 8, they could come over here and work with the 7th and 8th graders. So we're looking at all those license things and figuring out what to move and how to move it, and to make sure that we stay with licensure first, but then we let people really teach to their strengths, because when people are teaching to their strengths, the kids get a better education. So that's.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, strategic plan scheduling completion.
we didn't get to marketing or community and college partnerships. Okay, the last time we did the strategic planning at a board meeting, I don't know about you guys, but it got, I thought it got really long. And so would it be, would you like to do a work session possibly on a Saturday? Or would you like to put one topic on each board meeting? So we just talk about marketing as a discussion item. And then we just talk about the community college partnerships the next month.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like one topic.
Okay,
We can try it. I mean, if we try it and it goes long and we start going in a vortex, we can go to the Saturday.
as long as it's not a polar vortex, I'm
Right.
fine with it.
Yeah. Good with you, John?
Absolutely. I thought it was real productive in the meeting, but as the night went on, then we just knew when it was time to.
The only thing I'll say is I mean, it's great to have all you guys here, but I just wanna make, I like having it, and I don't know how you can do it, but more of a workshop, so people know if they come, that's what they're gonna see. It's kind of run different than a meeting. It's much more informal and lots of different people talking and
Because
throwing
we-
ideas up.
We could do it on an off Thursday and a meeting, a Thursday that's not a scheduled board meeting and,
Oh, that would be all right too.
and,
It's better than a
and
Saturday.
and do a work session.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be good. And then, I mean, cause sometimes we need to bring some different people to the table and it's just kind of a different environment than the normal board meeting, so.
So we have, March 14th or March 28th.
Well, so one other idea, just thinking, sometimes our meetings are quite short, half hour or so. Usually that is often because there's something else going on in the district. But if we had a fairly short agenda, we could do like, I learned at MSBA, the school districts that have their regular meeting and they adjourn their meeting and convene a work session immediately following it. If we had, if we were here on a Thursday, had a short meeting, we could stay for another hour and a half and do it.
Okay,
Not embedded within the regular meeting, but so we could change the format, as you're saying. Just another, I don't know if you can predict the length of the agenda.
That's kind of what we did last time, though. We saw that there was agenda light.
right.
Well, we kept it late.
We
So
we
we-
kept
we
it
kept
light.
it
Well,
light.
it was a special meeting, so yeah, oh no, it wasn't.
No,
It
was
wasn't,
regular.
we just, I just
Right
tried
at first
to,
is.
There was an opportunity
We kept
there.
adding a few things.
Yeah, it was interesting though, cause nobody, I don't know, I think people knew that's what we were doing.
Yeah. So it's just a third idea.
I like that, I mean, that's fine too,
We just have to make sure it gets scheduled.
Right.
so if next meeting is a shorter one, we can, I'll let you know that we're scheduling a work session at the end of it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's
Okay.
tech marketing.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, old business. Snow day makeup options.
okay. There's all kinds of, somebody came into my office today and asked me what kind of cake I wanted, and I asked why, and he said, well, I heard that, if school districts don't make the 1,020 minutes, the superintendents go to jail for 3 years, and I wondered what kind of cake you wanted in jail. I was like, oh, no, that you misheard. So, as you know, we have dropped 1.7 hours below the required 1,020 hours for 7th through 12th grade. There are bills in the legislature right now. I think there's 2 in the House, 1 in the Senate. Unfortunately, they're wildly different.
One passed today.
Did it already?
Yeah, and
Or-
Waltz gave it the nod that he would support a reduction, so, but it hasn't gotten through the other.
Okay, which one?
I don't know, I
Okay.
heard it on, but something went through somewhere that that was working, and I'm like, this sounds good.
Okay, if it was Carlin Nelson's, it
I don't know.
or was it, Okay.
Tomorrow. Anyway, I think, maybe I'm
Can I
wishful
Google
thinking.
it?
Sure.
Yeah,
What should I Google?
Well, just, it was on NPR, it was on Minnesota Public
Okay,
Radio.
I'll look there.
the thing is, they're talking about the fact that, we might be held harmless about that 1,020, except our preschool will not be.
Okay,
We do get school readiness plus dollars. Our preschool will be impacted, because they will not meet that hour, limit. And then Summit is in the same, they get extended days, so they have to meet the 10/20. For some, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I know that, if we have to wait to the end of the session, it's too late to do anything. And so in sitting down with Todd and Rick, if we do something as minimal as starting the day at 8:23 and ending the day at the high school at 3:25, that adds 14 minutes, which is 2 minutes per hour. So every class period goes from 48 to 50. If we do that change from March 11th until the end of the school year, we will be able to basically earn back 2 full days. With that, right now, we are at 165 days, which is the minimum for kindergarten through 11th grade. The seniors are held harmless to that 165. Once again, if you feel that the seniors need to put the 4 days back in, that's a board decision. But there's nothing in statute holding your feet to that fire.
They have the hours, but not the days. I thought they had to be
They've
the
got
hours.
the days, not the hours. But if there is the legislative fix, they're being held harmless to the 10/20.
So they don't need it.
So there's no statute language about the number of days for seniors.
But there is about the number of hours.
There is for the number of hours, but there's already talk about holding harmless for the 1,020 hours.
For everyone, not just seniors.
Jean found the bill.
Okay.
The bill that went through the House Finances Bill 1982 by Shelley Christensen, Republican, and Representative Christensen, and that's 3 canceled days they would take off. Nelson's hasn't gone yet. It's headed to the House for tomorrow.
Okay,
That's good news.
so that would, if
approve.
they give us the 3 days back, then we would have 2 days and 4.6 hours.
Not a lot, not enough for March.
So, just my quick thoughts, my only concern on the extension of the day is the correlation with the elementary school, as far as transportation.
This doesn't, the only change is that the buses would leave, we get out of school here at 3:18, we'd get out at 3:25 instead, and so if they just held the kids for 5
So-
more minutes
so
at the
just-
elementary school, and then
It'll become old hat after a little while.
it doesn't have to change the morning at all, and it adds probably that 7 minutes at the end of the day.
But going back, so the seniors have to have the 1,020, just like everyone else. So the seniors are currently short. Even without those days, everybody is short. So if we didn't add the time, the seniors couldn't get out early. If we added the time, they still could,
Right.
right?
So if you add the time, they can.
So one thing that Mimi brought up before was running the buses or not running the buses, and I think you informed us that, I can't remember how that worked, but in the past, we could run the buses on plowed roads only and have school, right?
Right.
And the kids who are, if the buses are not able to get there,
And that's
isn't
what
that
we-
an option?
We did that on, what we do is if we don't feel it's safe, we call and they come to a designated, the parents bring them to a designated drop spot.
But if they even can't get to the designated drop spot, are they excused, and can we still have school?
Yes,
So
but we
isn't
do
that-
have to still, we can't just not run buses, we still have to.
Right.
Yeah, but as long as we run the
But that's a
buses.
different option than
Yeah.
just not running the buses, that's running
Yeah,
the
I
buses.
noticed, yeah, cause we were told everybody had to be there, but I know Caledonia then the very next day said buses on plowed roads only. So, it's,
So is that an option?
Your bigger issue is
That, we did that option already on Monday.
But we could do it more, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
well, your
to
bigger
not-
issue in March is gonna be ice rather than snow,
Well,
and then you
yeah,
can't get anywhere.
right,
So,
well,
yeah.
but minutes and the buses between them, we can maybe get these hours
Right,
that we need.
right.
So what do you do in the case of the teacher not making it?
On, Tuesday, Tuesday, 2 teachers had to take PTO. There was just absolutely no way they could make it here. And so we had subs for them because,
And that worked out.
yeah, we rolled with it and they called in and,
And then those students unable to make it, they'll still get the school days credited, they're just out a day. But when we roll on, it goes on.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
moving in the right direction.
but I don't wanna put buses on the roads if it's not safe.
What do you
And
think
if
of
we end
these?
up with another polar vortex, if it's 20 below, the buses can't go because they gel.
well, I'm not a weatherman, I'm not gonna pretend to be, and even they can't predict very well. So I don't know how many snow days we're gonna have, but it doesn't seem like 3 in this bill are gonna be enough. I mean, that's what I'm kinda concerned about, but I don't know what happens if I guess,
So
you
on,
do get put in jail, like what happens if we don't?
We'll all visit her, take her, visit out.
I would hope not.
But I did read, it said I mean, I'm joking, but at the same time I read some of the stuff and it was like, it didn't sound good, like it was like pretty, I can't remember, I think it said jail, actually. It was like, I don't know what I was reading.
Which
but
I would not like.
it said you must, and you can't lie, and blah, 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 or you'll be penalized, and I just don't know like, if we're a few hours short, what's gonna happen to us?
Well, and
We're
that,
making cakes.
yeah, 3 hots and a cot.
I really like carrot cakes. But I think if we are really doing our due diligence to try to get the hours, that's gotta count for something.
I think you have to make.
So
this
for tonight, we need to vote on
But,
this.
I mean, devil's advocate, I mean, yes, we're trying to make the hours and we're going above and beyond, but is there gonna be a lot of learning that happens in the 2 extra minutes?
That's not ours to
No,
say.
we're just trying
That's
to.
not-
We don't care about that,
That's
we
not
just,
the
We
issue.
care, but the legislature.
I guess, I mean,
That's
that's
not
the
the
thing
issue.
is it worth all the hassle for the 2 extra minutes? And I think we probably would all say, if we didn't have to, no, it's not worth the hassle, but if we have to and we have to try, then
It's worth
we have to try.
Yeah, this is the least painful try.
And how does that affect the preschool? They go longer?
No, we'll just be,
Will be docked.
we'll be docked. I'm not gonna make those littles come in earlier.
But if they stay later in the afternoon, they're gonna be on the bus at the elementary.
Yeah, I suppose.
But
Which, is it 3-year-old in the afternoon or 4-year-olds? 4-year-olds
the
are
older
morning.
kids are in the afternoon,
Oh,
the-
4-year-olds are in the afternoon?
and
So
they
that-
wait on, like, my son gets on the bus and waits at the elementary, so he's gonna,
So
you
they could,
don't want him
they
sitting
could,
on the bus.
they
You're
could
gonna want him at the
expand by
school.
5 minutes, so that would help.
Do you need a motion tonight to enact this?
Yes.
In the morning, does the preschool, cause we need to communicate this out to the
school-
parents and everybody.
School Readiness Plus is just, the 4-year-olds.
Okay,
Okay, so we're just looking at the 4-year-old time. So if we added 5 minutes there, and that would, 5 minutes would, because their requirement is less, but 5 minutes a day would really help.
Now, Rick's not here, but, I don't know how many maybe a lot of parents pick up, maybe that's a huge, I don't know how big of a hassle that is. Some go on the bus, some get picked up, I'm sure.
And it's just a communication as far as, please come 5 minutes later.
Okay.
I'd like to so move that we proceed with the suggestion that you have.
And the suggestion is,
To extend
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 morning
the school
school
day.
day.
Start in the
As in
morning.
the paragraph there.
Okay.
Do we need a second and then discuss?
yes, can we have a second?
Second,
Thank you.
Can we also have it note that the afternoon preschool will go for 5 minutes longer as well?
Yes.
Is that a friendly amendment? Accepting that, Pete? That
Yes,
friendly
I would.
amendment?
Okay. We have a motion and a second, any other discussion?
Just one more discussion item, I don't wanna, no amendments, but just with the seniors, because we have some here, if we do this, we at this time don't feel that we need to adjust their
Last week.
last week, so their last
So
week
their
off
last week can
stays-
be their last week off.
Yes. Now, just to,
Sigh.
again, devil's advocate to say, well, I suppose we're gonna have a bigger discussion if we have 4 or 5 more snow days, so that will, I mean, if we have a significant
Thank you,
number,
Mimi.
maybe.
And then instead of visiting me in jail, you're gonna have to visit me in the
Throw in the ball,
hospital.
let's just start next year.
So seniors, you guys are good to go.
Unless you
As
need,
of today.
unless you
Well,
need it.
We need,
Unless
we
there's wording.
need to vote on this.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
all in favor say aye,
Aye.
opposed, carried. Okay,
Okay, the next thing is, we, like several other districts right now, there's a new phishing scheme where, they, duplicate email addresses, and you don't notice until there's maybe an added little thing at the end of the email address, so it looks like it's from the person asking to, change bank routing information. And, we don't have a cyber insurance policy. Right now, we did get phished, and, Bremer Bank, we notified Bremer, and it was within 24 hours, they could pull the money back. So we are not out any money. However, that was enough to kind of give us a wake-up call. I think just today, 3 different people in the office supposedly got emails from me asking to change my bank routing information. So they're going online and finding out who the administrators are, and then trying to fish with those names, except the office staff is having fun with them and giving nice little comments back, and like, well, why didn't you just come into my office or yell across for the hall like you always do? But it's one of those where with the cyber insurance, the companies that they are giving it to were out on vacation, so they couldn't get the dollar back to us. 2 years ago, it was about $4,000 a year.
Just to note, the public is susceptible to this right now too, because my daughter had this happen today to her.
And it's one of those, if we've got the policy, it protects us. If we're really looking at sending more computers home, we need this for protection. So I'm asking that, you approve that we add the cyber insurance policy to the list of policies that we will be approving in May. Is that when we re-up?
Yeah, it has to be approved by June 1st.
Yes. So that they can get going on getting this
The other thing is that I know just because my work does this, but there's some good training sessions and I have to do a training on it. I have to do various trainings every year, but one of them is on this, and so it's got all the newest stuff. And what to watch for, you have to figure it out in the email what the thing is, so we maybe should do some more training because some of the stuff is,
And Bremer fraud, we had the Minneapolis Center on the phone, and then they were going through different things so they did a little fraud protection training for us right away. Because
Does the insurance require that as part of their, providing insurance, that there be some training, or I don't know, but maybe they would provide it to.
They expect us to have different type of procedures in place, and so we have now put those procedures in place, and it's just they're coming up with new ones every day. It's just staying ahead of them is
well, there's
mind-boggling.
that, there's making sure you're installing update, there's a whole list of stuff that you need to do to protect you, and one computer that's bad could be their way in, so I just took the training. It's scary, very scary, honestly, so.
And a good move also was to remove the check numbers in terms of the listing of the financial statement.
Right, and so we, when we have the approval of bill pay, you will notice that there are certain columns that are no longer going to be part of public record.
So I was, wondering about that, some other board packets I've looked at online, they just put the total amount, but then at the board meeting, the register is available, but it's not posted online, it's not available to the public, the whole register isn't. But in the packet, it's checks, expenditures of this amount. And those that are over our policy, those that are over a certain amount that have to be documented. So then it's just total amount of checks, and these are the itemized, and no check numbers or anything else, but instead of having it posted, is that another option?
If we have it available to the board at a board meeting, it has to be part of the packet for the press.
Yeah, well, the amount,
Yeah, and so I would,
well,
I
yeah,
just wanna make sure that we're
the
following.
public knows how much we're approving in expenditures of checks, and there is a expanded, maybe we don't need it here, don't bring it to us then, just put it on, put it on there and follow the, this big chunk was for whatever, the things that Gwen has to mark, because that's board policy to highlight anything that's over however many thousand. Yeah, anything over 2,000 has to be marked, and just those items, and the rest of it is just a dollar amount. We don't parse them anymore. They used to bring the whole cart down, and you could go through it manually, the invoices and the checks, remember that? Right?
Yeah.
So if that's an option, that might be another safeguard to just save somebody from doing all of that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know.
Oh, it's on an Excel spreadsheet. We can put it into an Excel spreadsheet and just.
Wipe
fill
a
that
column. Okay.
So we need a motion to add this to the,
We need a motion to approve for this, spending 4,000 for cyber.
Well,
No.
we're not sure if it's going to be 4,000, we haven't gotten the
Alright.
quote yet, but I
We
need
don't need it
approval
to-
to add it to the suite of insurance.
For May.
okay, and a second?
We
No, we
just need
don't.
an agreement on
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do we
Till
need to
we-
move on this, or
Till we get to that.
Can we just
No.
have an agreement? that
can't we just reach
we don't need a
consensus that we
motion?
want it to be added, and then we would approve it or disapprove it?
When the final dollar,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I suppose
that's,
perfect.
okay.
That sounds good.
Let's hope the rates haven't gone up too much more.
So do we have consensus?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll just,
We should
It's fine,
just-
take it
but
a
we'll
quote.
approve it in May.
If it comes back at
Okay.
10,000, then
We've
no.
all
Right.
consented to it.
Unless it's 10,000, we
Well,
might
we've all
disapprove.
consented to looking at what it's gonna cost us to get cyber
Yeah.
insurance.
In May.
Okay, policies for first reading. Policy
Okay.
707, 708, 709, 710, and 714.
Policy 707 is on here. It will not be on for a second reading on March 21st, because that one, we really need to, that's the one we're looking at, and Todd and Rick are going through as far as trying to give some direction as far as how far out of our district boundaries we will go. And so
Okay,
that's, look at it. It's
Well, then I
there.
would make a motion that we lay it over until it's ready for a first reading.
Okay,
Do you think?
yeah,
That
that
sounds good.
works.
we have a motion to lay over policy 707. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, who got that?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay,
And then the rest of those are okay. We did talk about the fund balance policy at the finance meeting. So those will be on for approval March 21st.
okay, announcements?
It's paraprofessional week. So we have different signs up, and we've gotten announcements in throughout the week. Our paras are hard week working, and they do a good job.
You still have to work during paraprofessional week?
Yes, yes. Are mothers still mothers on Mother's Day?
Good point. Okay, meeting and committee updates. HVED,
The biggest problem we had is because of school closings, and we're in different buildings, you know, and some close and some don't. Well, it's really created havoc with them, so they were able to work around it, and they're in the same boat we are in terms of getting the hours, looking at meeting the hours and everything else, so looks pretty good. Those students that are going to the VOTEC, they all, when the VOTEC was in session and the other schools were closed, they arranged to drive themselves there. They were so excited to get to class. They were really surprised. Nothing heard back from Fowler and Anderson, or Krause and Anderson yet, so it's just unknown.
Kraus and Anderson, we've got a superintendent meeting on the 12th, and there will be reps there.
yeah? Is that it?
Yep.
Finance?
We covered most of this in tonight's meeting. Corinne, can you think of anything, any highlight that was not discussed in the regular meeting?
We're looking at budgeting for 2020, which sounds funny. But once again, it really depends on what they do legislatively, and how much money,
Yeah, wait till 20th.
yeah. Because right now, we've looked at what it could possibly be with a zero budget, a 1%, a 3%. I have no idea where to even put a stab.
Legislative wise, I mean, they looked at the finance again, and then now they knocked a 500,000 out of there in terms of
Oh,
500 million,
million, yes.
500 million, yeah. Right at first they thought they were gonna have 1.1 or 1.2. They dropped that. So it
Do
did
you
look
wanna
good.
mention whatever Tom had mentioned, or is that, are you gonna wait on that?
The facilities committee at our last meeting, that it was brought up to increase the amount that could be approved without board approval by strictly the facilities committee. We are currently at $10,000. It was mentioned at that committee meeting to move that up to 20,000. That would just expedite things that are need to be done without having to be held and voted on. That also gives more power, obviously, to the facilities committee. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, 'cause we, That was and I'm new to the facilities committee, but that's something that Tom had mentioned at the last meeting, and he's been on there for quite a while. We can just put it on the agenda and, just to,
Maybe when Tom can be here to speak to it too.
yeah, exactly, but just to kind of start the seed on that, you can give it some thought. Some concerns were raised that wouldn't be need for it, and all valid point, and at the same time, it would probably help, the school's maintenance and just some of those decisions just to be pushed through.
And speaking of facilities, Lediger Roofing came with 2 snow blowers and shovels and a crane. And on Monday and Tuesday afternoons, they removed a total of about 120 tons of snow from the high school roof.
That's pretty weighty.
Well, considering the fact that we're now getting, the National Weather Service is saying that with the precipitation we're getting this weekend, it's going to be very wet and it will cause roofs to collapse. I'm just happy that,
We got a little
right,
jump on it.
and the elementary roof was also examined, and that one is, it's wicking away the moisture as intended, and so
Does the
that one's
insurance
okay.
at all cover the removal of the snow, or is that just a,
Um,
typically it doesn't in our home, so it probably doesn't here either.
No.
So is that rather costly to have them do
they
that?
said it would be, up to 7,500, but
But we have to have them do it.
7,500 is a
Yeah, I
lot
read
cheaper
that.
than,
Wow.
on the locker room roof. There were, 8 to 10 foot drifts,
Yeah, and they have to do it too, and I understand that.
and they had to do it because it's
We-
the roof warranty,
We would damage roof.
right?
At least we're not in Byron's position.
I feel so sorry for them.
Okay,
Oh, and, this is, when I was, in the cities with, K-12 and, digging into, data, there is a meeting in Dallas, March 26th and 27th, for new programs starting the Destination Career Academy. And the information came to me late because we got approved after that original invitation went out in January. They would like me to attend, but I didn't feel I could go to Dallas without board approval.
Make a motion, but I don't know that we need a motion. I would certainly think that we would want you to
Yes,
go get
absolutely.
as much information as
You would need a motion for that, wouldn't you?
it's gonna be a cost, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
because there's a cost involved, so.
is that a motion?
I guess.
We have a second,
I second it.
discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
A lot of us have gone through phase 1 and phase 2. They are having phase 3 coming up in Rochester. To do phase 3, you would want as many of the school board there as possible, because it's kind of an interactive between each of the members going through. So I don't know if we wanted to consider phase 3 in Rochester. I think, is that April 26th?
April 30th,
April 30th, is that a Tuesday, Monday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
It's
April
gonna be
30th.
hard to get the whole board
Yeah.
there. It's a work
Well,
day.
wouldn't you have
Yeah.
had to go through phase 1 and 2 in order to go to 3?
Well, how many have gone to 3 and 4? Anybody have gone to, so, maybe the other, so you two would, we wouldn't have to.
No, but I mean, I went, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, I went, by myself. And
Yeah.
It's
much
a-
better if you can
Well,
get
any
more.
of those are, yeah, if the, cause it's meant to be
We
a.
all remember it word for word.
I
It
remember there were
doesn't say-
lots of scenarios that they tried to
It
set
doesn't
up.
say time of day for it.
I'd probably all
I think
day.
it's all day.
It's an all day.
Yeah, it was for me.
I would think it is.
April 30th,
Well, we have time to think about that.
Yeah.
When's the
Right.
registration close? Or,
Whatever it said on there.
it doesn't
Yeah.
say, it just
Yeah.
says register today.
yeah,
They have
Yeah.
several of them throughout the
It's a-
state, and
I'll say
Rochester's
it's
the
a,
closest one here.
it's a good thought and would definitely be valuable, it's just difficult
Yes,
during
it's
the
very-
work week.
Mhm.
yes.
And it's, Rochester is by far the closest one, cause
Right.
I don't wanna drive
Saturday,
up to the hinterlands at Teef River.
Saturday, I
It's only an
think,
8-hour drive.
Might be a tough day with that playground thing starting on Wednesday.
Oh,
May
May
1st.
first.
Yeah.
Well,
'cause there'll be a lot
Let
of
us-
Revisit it
trouble.
next time.
let us
Yeah.
know.
Gene, do you plan on attending with or without your team?
9 AM to 4 AM.
No,
Oh, 4
I
PM.
don't.
Yeah, I don't think I'd get it.
Closes
You
April
need to have the
24th.
team there to get,
You do, I
Yeah.
know, I see they
April
stress that,
24th.
but I didn't know if it was
Yeah.
mandatory.
no, it isn't mandatory, but,
That's what phase 3 is about, is the team.
yeah,
What?
Okay, what's April 24th?
That's when registration closes.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I got you.
it's best to have the team for 3.
So,
Yep.
that's really, okay.
Okay, anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Do we need a second?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
You actually don't need to approve it.
You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.